Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome again to the Beyond Africa podcast with me, your host, Ngalim Bernard. We've been talking about Cameroon for one key reason, the elections that come up on October 12, 2025. And sub-issues include the president's age. He is 93 years old. If he wins again, he's going to lead for 100. He's going to leave office at 100 years. He's been in power for 43 years. And these issues are not going unnoticed or going unchallenged. One of the challenges we've faced is the electoral list, which is believed to be manufactured and shaped in a way that would favor the current president and his regime to perpetuate themselves in power. One activist, one politician who has noted this, has been very vocal about it and has said that the credibility of the elections is in question. She doesn't believe that the elections can actually produce any plausible results. So we have her in the studio today to talk about this and what she thinks about mobilization for a transition, a peaceful transition in Cameroon. She's noted her voice against violent transition, but she believes that with time, citizens would understand why and how peaceful transitions work. And of course, this to her is the main strategy that would take Cameroon to a new regime. But before I introduce my guest to you, I would like you to take a moment, subscribe to this channel, comment on our video, share this video, because these are the signs that we bring to you valuable, insightful, educational, and informative guests who share the most important information to you. Information that is not only relevant to Cameroon, but relevant to Africa and the world beyond. So I introduce to you Madame Ka Wala. You are welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast, Madame Ka.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've mentioned your name on a series of my podcasts with different guests, and because we've discussed a lot of issues that you've been talking about. And one of those issues is the credibility of the elections as a whole. I know that as an activist, as a politician, I don't know which cap you are wearing or which cap you wear, because it looks like the kind of cross. From Stand Up Cameroon, that could be an activism. From the chairperson of CPP, political party, that is a politician. So situate us. Are you an activist or are you a politician?
I think in Cameroon, given our current state of affairs, you can be an activist and not be a politician. But if you are a politician and you are not an activist, then I really don't know what you are about. We in Cameroon, we have to be very clear. We live in a dictatorship. We live in a society that does not guarantee fundamental rights, that is, the right to free speech, the right to your political opinion, the right to political assembly, and the right to free, transparent, and just election. So when you are living in a society that does not ensure those rights, then if you say you are going to be a politician without being an activist for those fundamental rights, I personally, I wonder what you are about, what you are truly about. So politics in Cameroon means fighting first and foremost for the right to do politics, because we don't have the right to do politics. So if we do not fight for the right to do politics, then we cannot carry out our role as politicians. So I am clearly a politician that believes in fundamental rights and believes also that the fight for fundamental rights goes beyond the political sphere. You cannot fight for fundamental rights only with politicians. You have to reach out to the rest of the community to be able to do so.
Thank you. This may sound a little bit common, a little bit basic for people to understand, but the way you are structuring it, it definitely needs a little bit of in-depth knowledge or explanation for people to get that difference between a politician and an activist? Can you help us?
Yes, because I would actually love to be a politician. Being a politician would mean that in Cameroon, there is an open political field. Political rights are guaranteed. Then I come as a politician, and my only job is to convince Cameroonians that I have the best political program and that I will be the best leader for the country. So if when you have rights that are guaranteed, then the job of the politician is a marketing job. I just have to go out there, get my message to people, convince them that I have the best program, and convince them to vote for me. This is not the case in Cameroon. In Cameroon, you can get arrested for expressing your political opinion. In Cameroon, I have had my party premises, my personal home surrounded, I don't know how many times, by police to stop me from carrying out my political activity. So when you are in that kind of a situation, then you have to put your political program aside and reach out to the population and say to the population, look, we have before I can tell you my program, we must first and foremost have a space that enables me to express to you what my ideas are, and you to listen to those ideas without threat. If we are in a situation where we are threatened by the simple exchange of me giving you my political information and you being able to receive it, then we are no longer in politics. Then we are in activism, because we have to obtain that right so that we can now move to the next step of carrying out political activity.
Thank you. So the basic line here is political activists create an enabling environment for politicians to perform or to exercise their political activities in a free, credible, in fact, on a level playing ground. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I would say activists and citizens, because the job of making sure that the playing field is level is every single Cameroonian's job. It's not the job of one group of people somewhere. Because when the playing field is level, then the average Cameroonian has the possibility to say, I like this political program, I want to vote for this political program, I want to join this political party, I want to express my political opinions in this way or in the other way. When we do not have that level playing field, it is not just politicians who are in trouble, it is the entire society. And this is the situation, by the way, in which we are today in Cameroon.
I love the addition of the citizen, because sometimes citizens say, oh, that man is a politician, that man is an activist, and I am just a citizen, therefore I don't have any role to play in this. And adding it there kind of shapes the context in which everybody should be conscious that they have these fundamental rights and they have the right to exercise these fundamental rights without unnecessary, illegitimate, illegal interventions by the government. I think that is a fundamental lesson that we should take out of this first phase of the conversation. But before we go ahead, you just mentioned that Cameroon is a dictatorship where fundamental rights are not respected. You've mentioned that your house has been, you've been under some sort of house arrest or house detainment, so you don't go out to exercise your rights, as examples to demonstrate the dictatorship. But on a larger scale, won't somebody argue against you, saying that Cameroon has laws and those laws are being implemented the way they're supposed to be, and you are just a troublemaker?
I would just want to ask them in where is that happening? Where are their laws, and where are the laws being implemented as they should be? you know, let us go out of the political sphere. Let us go to the legal sphere, as you say. By law in Cameroon, you can only deprive somebody of their liberty, which is a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution of Cameroon. And liberty, you have two rights, the right to life and the right to liberty, which condition all other rights. Because if you don't have life and if you are not in liberty, you cannot exercise your right to education, your right to have a job, your right to, so these are very, very fundamental rights. Now, to deprive somebody of their liberty, to arrest somebody, the law of Cameroon says you can only do so in three ways. First, you must catch the person in the act of committing a crime. So if you catch somebody stealing, if you catch somebody committing murder, if you catch somebody committing a crime, the forces of law and order can, of course, arrest that person. The second way to arrest somebody is that you suspect somebody of a crime. You deliver to that person a summons from the police station, and they arrive at the police station with and by Cameroonian law, when you arrive at the police station, you immediately have the right to counsel. You immediately have the right to have a lawyer. So they can arrest you because they have summoned you, and during the course of asking you questions, you say something which incriminates you and shows that you are, a suspect of a crime. Then you can be arrested. The third possibility is that the police, during their investigation, suspect you of a crime, in which case they have to go to a judge, obtain a warrant of arrest, and then arrest you. Now, what I can tell you, Mr. Ngalim, if we were to apply the law, just that law in Cameroon with regard to arrest, over 90% of the prisons would be empty. If we were just to apply the law, we would have to let over 90% of the people go who are in prison today, because nobody in Cameroon is legally arrested. Nobody is arrested by law. So if we just take that very fundamental aspect, then I ask you, if somebody were to say to me, we are in a state of rule of law, I would ask them where. Please let me know. I also would like to live in that particular town in Cameroon or in that particular village. So please inform me where this rule of law is being respected.
So where do you put administrative detentions in this whole package? And what will you do with statements by your very good friend Atanganji Paul, who says the police, or who says the GOs and SGOs and governors have been instructed to arrest and deploy troops at any time, given when he thinks that there is trouble on peace and order?
So I have said so before, and I've had the privilege to say this to his face. Mr. Atanganji is completely confused. Many officials in the government of Cameroon are confused, but he is particularly confused. He is somebody who is a die-hard CPDM militant, and I have to say, one of the things I appreciate about him, there are not too many, but one of the things I appreciate about him is that he is very upfront and direct with it. If you meet him, he will tell you, not only is he a CPDM militant, he is a Biyaist. So he is a believer in Biya, which this is his right as a citizen of Cameroon, he has the right to belong to a political party, to believe in whoever he wants to believe to. That's his right. The problem where the confusion comes in is that he confuses his role of Minister of Territorial Administration. Paid for, his salary is paid for by me and the other 30 million Cameroonians. We do not pay him to be a CPDM militant. We pay him to administer the territory of Cameroon according to the laws of Cameroon. And Mr. Atanganji is perpetually, by declaration and by action, in violation of the law. It is quite unfortunate. And honestly speaking, and these are the elements of proof that we are in a dictatorship. Because were we not in a dictatorship, Mr. Atanganji would have lost his job years ago. We would not be talking about it. Because when Mr. Atanganji says he will put us into a blender, into a moulinex, and grind us up, by Cameroonian law, he has just threatened us. And he should go to jail for that. Because he is not allowed to threaten us with violence. No Cameroonian is allowed to threaten the other one with violence. Talk less of a minister of the Republic. So the one of the elements of evidence that we are in a dictatorship is that Mr. Atanganji is there, not because he upholds the law, not because he is doing his job as Minister of Territorial Administration. He is there because he is a Biyaist. We are in the middle of an election right now. He is the Minister of Territorial Administration, and the Cameroonian law says the supervisory ministry for political parties is the Ministry of Territorial Administration. So we are going to election against somebody, Mr. Biya, right? Whose most fervent cheerleader is the minister who supervises us as political parties. Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense to you that we are going into a competition? The elections, by the way, the MINAC plays a very big role in the conduct of elections in Cameroon. So the person who is ensuring the framework of elections openly tells you that he has a horse in the race. He has a candidate that he supports. And to tell you the level of confusion, Mr. Atanganji is the negotiator of the majorité présidentielle, the presidential majority. Mr. Atanganji is the person who he himself goes to negotiate with other parties to bring them on board the presidential majority.
But
and he is the minister.
Yeah,
the level of absurdity in Cameroon is beyond words. You cannot. If you made a film, if you made a movie, and gave these kinds of parts to people will tell you your movie is too unrealistic. It doesn't make sense.
Do you want to pretend for a second that you are the only politician in Cameroon who has noticed this? And if you are not the only politician, one encourages all the other politicians to continue or to participate in the upcoming elections?
Oh, of course, I am not the only politician in Cameroon. I think every Cameroonian politician is well aware. The elections in Cameroon are taken hostage by three institutions: ELECA, the Ministry of Territorial Administration, which we have just talked about, and the Constitutional Council. These three institutions are all managed by CPDM diehard. Everybody in these institutions, before they were in that position, they were a central committee member of the CPDM. So it's not, these are not things we are suspecting, like suspecting that they have the leaning towards CPDM. No, they were, at the time of their nomination, they were card-carrying members, central committee members.
Was Eno Abrams Egbe was Eno Abrams Egbe the chairperson of Elecam, of the Conseil Electoral of Elecam? Was he a member of the CPDM? I thought he just resigned as a governor, or retired as a governor.
So in Cameroon, we have just we have just talked about the Ministry of Territorial Administration. Governors are a part of the Ministry of Territorial Administration. Governors are part of the machine that wins elections for the CPDM. They have been that way for the past 43 years. So nobody gets to be a governor and be neutral in Biya's Cameroon. It does not happen.
What about Clement Atangana, who is a super scale magistrate and is the president of the Constitutional Council? Was he also a CPDM militant?
Clement Atangana is somebody who has been within the CPDM system for his entire career. He is somebody who, I remember the video of him dancing the day he was nominated and praising Paul Biya for having remembered him. Mr. Atangana found himself at a CPDM party meeting where the candidature of Paul Biya was endorsed. He was at that meeting. So the Constitutional Council had 11 members. 10 of them were members of the CPDM prior to their nomination. The Elecam board has 18 members. 14 of them were members of the CPDM before their nomination. So this is what we are dealing with. And
unless I am mistaken, Atangana said in that meeting you mentioned where the CPDM's candidature was endorsed, he left before the endorsement was happening. So would you still want to pin that on him?
Of course, we would be curious as to what our president of the Constitutional Council, the highest court in the land, what was he doing at a party meeting? It doesn't matter when he left. What was he doing at a CPDM party meeting?
Was it exactly a CPDM party meeting or a development organization meeting in which he was attending as a son of that particular village?
Will he also come to the CPP party meeting if I invite him?
You should try.
We could try it.
Try it?
Yes, we could try it.
He may endorse your candidature for the next elections.
We could try it.
All right. So talking about all these, now we are talking about the election that is coming up on October the 12th, and most politicians are fully involved and invested, and we have 11 candidates plus President Biya's candidature. But you've been talking about the viability of the electoral registers. The Maurice Kamto had taken cases to court for that electoral register to be invalidated and redone. The Constitutional Council ruled against him. So what are your thoughts? I know you are critical of this electoral list. So what are your thoughts at this moment about that list and those who are running at these elections?
It is very clear that what is taking place in Cameroon is not elections. It's a masquerade. It's a simulacrum. it's a performative act that is taking place in Cameroon. And this is as regards the electoral list. It is as regards the Constitutional Council you have just mentioned. The Constitutional Council is the highest court in the land. They have had multiple cases, not one a case, brought to them with regard to election recourse, where people are saying, look, the rules are not being followed, things are not going as they should. And their position was, we are not the competent court. Now, it is, how does the highest court in the land tell you that they are not the competent court? If, in case they are not the competent court, it is they are the ones to tell you who the competent court is. So if this is the last recourse for Cameroonians, and these people are saying, sorry, we don't know what to do, and they are not redirecting you to where things should go. The publication of the electoral list, of the electoral register by Elecam, you talked about rule of law. This is Cameroonian law. This is not opposition parties making a fuss. This is Cameroonian law. That list, we are today in September. That list was supposed to be published on the 31st of December, 9 months ago. So when you, as a Cameroonian, take the law is clear on this. It's not sometimes with law, there are things of interpretation and so on. The law says Elecam should publish the voters register by the 31st of December. Till today, when we sit, that voters register is not published. On what is the basis for going in on the election? What is the basis? Let us take another element of because we've talked a lot about Elecam and we've talked a lot about the law. Let us go to the conditions for in which an election is supposed to take place. We are in the second week in September. This is back to school week in Cameroon. On Monday, children went back to school all over our country, except children did not go back to school in the Northwest and the Southwest region. As we speak right now, there is a lockdown in the Northwest and the Southwest region, and it has been declared that children will only go back to school after the election. So children in the Southwest and Northwest are going to miss over a month of school because of the election. No candidate is going to tell you that they are going to campaign in those regions. If they go to those regions, they will do the best of going to one or two big towns in those regions. In 2018, we were in the same situation, and what did we get? We got scores of 90+% from both the Northwest and Southwest for the CPDM. Nobody is able to contest those scores because no political party will tell you that they were in Dop, or they were in Bakingili, or they were in right now, even Muyuka, a bomb just went off in Malende. So nobody is going to be able to tell you, I was on the ground, I know what the results were, and I'm contesting the results.
Yeah, with all this,
we are going to have a 90+% win from CPDM from those two regions. Add on to that, right now, the Mayo Chanaga and the Kolfata divisions in the extreme north completely in insecurity at this moment. By the time we are getting to October 12, you will not even be able to enter the Logon Eshari because of the bad state of the roads and the weather. As we enter that October for the northern regions, we are getting into flooding season. Mr. Ngalim, are those people Cameroonian citizens or are they not?
You have raised
Are we going for an election where people have the choice between either I don't exercise my vote, or if I go out to exercise my vote, I do so at the risk of my life? Is this an election?
very important points. Very important points for consideration there, Madam Ka. But before I ask the question I wanted to ask about this, I had Barrister Michelle Ndoki of Nation Builders recently, and she said it's not proper to think that Cameroonians who are on the ground are worthless or meaningless in the face of these elections. She said if they get involved, they can actually lead to a change, and an opposition candidate can actually win even without a coalition. But from what you're telling me here, you're raising issues like there is no need for these elections. So where should the viewer stand on this?
The elections are taking place, and elections are an important political moment in the life of every country. So every Cameroonian right now, registered or not registered, should get involved in the political process. Get involved in not as we have just demonstrated. The election is an entire sham. But this is a political moment, and it is a time for us to protest and to make our demands and to make them heard. So we have started work as Stand Up for Cameroon to, one, educate and mobilize citizens about their political rights in this moment. 2-3 weeks ago, we were in Yaoundé with over 600 women coming from 7 regions demonstrating, because the women are saying the political situation of the country is such that we are in dire straits as women. And they came out with a declaration to say, this is what we want to see. It's actually called the Cameroon we want. The women have said, this is what this is the Cameroon that we want. We believe that this is a moment for Cameroonians who identify as Anglophones to do the same thing. Anglophones cannot be going to an election as if nothing is happening in our regions. It doesn't make sense. This election is already putting people's lives. We are already losing lives. 8 soldiers were killed. Hundreds of families have been displaced from Malende because of elections. So now is the time for us to come together, raise our voices, and tell this government what we want. If they want to go to an election, let them give us ceasefire. Let them declare a ceasefire in our region.
Do you believe the government is going to listen at this point? Do you believe the government is going to listen at this point?
What is important is not, we know the government. What is important is the action of Cameroonians. If we sit, for sure they will do nothing. If we come together and we move in non-violent protest, we are not talking just about talking in the air. We are talking about non-violent protest to demand. It is our country. This country does not belong to CPDM. It does not belong to Mr. Biya.
But the lawyers and the teachers had this very non-violent protest in 2016.
Yes.
Nobody listened to them. Yes. It escalated into war. Nobody listened to anybody. Do you think that it's going to change in 2025?
Mr. Galim, I don't know where you are sitting. I don't know whether you're sitting in the US or
I'm in the US.
What country? Okay. So the question I would ask you is that when Black people could not vote in America, when Black people could not have the kind of job that you have there today, they went out on the streets and they were beaten, they were arrested. Did they go home and sit and say, oh, well, these guys are not listening to us, so we give up?
They pushed on.
They pushed on. And this is what we have to do. Today, Cameroonians are in the US, they're in South Africa, they are enjoying rights which other people have fought for. You could not, as a black man, it is just, we're talking just about 1960, it's day before yesterday. You could not be sitting and doing this program with me. So you are enjoying what the black Americans gave up their lives, went to jail, got beaten for.
So how do we domesticate this back to Cameroon?
Nobody is going to coming to save us in Cameroon. In Cameroon, we have to do the work the same way that people have done it all over the world. And this, Mr. Ngalim, is my real issue with elections. Because when we embark the people upon elections as a solution, in a country where the government is violent, because when you come out without violence, the government will push back with violence. If you take them on this election masquerade, most people will go for it. They will go for it because it's easier than telling them to come out for a protest. But this is a masquerade dance that we have been dancing for the last 30 years. We have done this dance. And we know how the dance ends. So the question which is before us as Cameroonians is, do we do the work? Do we go down? I ask you to go to our Facebook pages, to go to our Twitter pages, and see the result of grassroots work for a few weeks, in a few weeks' time of talking to the women, training the women. We were able to get them to Yaoundé without fear, in protest mode. Now, instead of us taking 30 million each, that 30 million pains me so much that political colleagues have gone and put into CPDM coffers, put into national coffers that the CPDM is pillaging, will steal. We have given them more money to steal. Now, instead of doing that, if they took half of that money and went to do the groundwork, because the question which is before us is simply one of, are we willing to do the work? Or do we want to believe in a mirage? We can continue believing in the mirage. We can continue saying, oh no, something can happen.
You just said
something can happen.
Yeah, you just said elections are happening and everyone should get involved. Those who are registered should vote, and those who are not registered should get involved. I said those who are registered, really, for me, you vote, you don't vote, and it's not going to make a difference. More important than anything is for you to become involved in the protest movement. So how do you become involved in the protest movement? One thing I note is the protests you are advocating for are non-violent. So how do you become involved in that in the protest movement?
You contact us. Number one, at Stand Up for Cameroon, you contact us. We have a simple protest, a very, very simple protest that we have been doing for years, and we have been able to use it to put pressure on the government at different times. It is our Friday in Black. It is a non-confrontational protest. It is one of the safest forms of protest for people who are afraid. It is normal for people to be afraid because we have a violent government. So it's normal. So if you are afraid, put on your black on Fridays and protest the terrible elections that are taking place. That is where we invite even those who are going in for elections, even candidates should be calling for Friday in Black protest because their rights are being violated as we speak. Political parties have had their meetings cancelled, SDF cancelled, Bello Buba, UNDP cancelled. CRM, who is not even going for elections, was prevented from holding a meeting in its headquarters. How do you prevent a political party from holding a meeting inside its headquarters? And then you tell us that you are going to elections?
So I want the viewers who may be thinking about contacting Stand Up for Cameroon to have an idea of where the investments may be going to. They're investing time and energy and emotions and intelligence to go into this. So how would this protest convey or translate into victory or into a result? What is the tangible result they can have, and about how much time?
Mr. Gali, number one, Cameroonians are not going to reinvent the wheel. Dictatorships throughout history, you bring them down in two ways. Either you bring them down with a gun, and we do not believe in the gun. We don't want violence. We do not want to exchange a civilian dictatorship for a military dictatorship. We are not interested. The second way that dictatorships have been brought down is by the people on the street. You watched this in Egypt, you watched it in Burkina Faso, you watched it in Tunisia, you watched it in Algeria. This is how we bring dictators down.
It is happening in Nepal as we speak.
It is happening in Nepal as we speak. This is how you bring dictators down. It's not rocket science. So you can continue going to sham elections and doing a masquerade, or you can join the movements that are for non-violent protest. You need training. Non-violent protests, for it to happen well, you need training, you need preparation, you need mobilization. Those are the things that we do inside the movement. Those are the things that we do to prepare people for a protest. In 2020, I don't know if you remember the Ngarbu massacre. We asked Cameroonians to come out in their Friday in Black. And people came out. We had over 3,000 people. We had a 3-day protest. It enabled us to push the government to the wall. And for the first time in the history of Cameroon, the government admitted that they were responsible for the burning and the killing that had taken place in Garb. We did not get a full result because unfortunately the Ngabu case is still on, and as good dictators do, they gave us a few scapegoats. They took some lower level officers and said, oh, these were the officers who were responsible for that. And we did not get the higher level officers who were the people who had actually given the order. But this is a case of success. This is a case of success where we see that when Cameroonians come out in protest, we can push this government back to the wall. I want to also point out people who are my age, not too many Cameroonians are. Unfortunately, we have a very young population, but we remember the 90s. What was the success of the 90s? The success of the 90s was not, in fact, when we entered the systems that were controlled by the state, we lost. When we decided to go in for the tripartite and we decided to go in for elections, we lost. The success of the 90s was the street, was our capacity to mobilize Cameroonians and bring them out, and we had a common objective. So one of the challenges that you may be asking me, and that is where UPC Manidem is a part of Stand Up for Cameroon, and we have said the objective is political transition. The objective is to bring an end to the Biya regime to enter into national dialogue, what we were calling in the 90s the Sovereign National Conference, is still on the agenda today because we have so many issues in Cameroon. We have undergone so much that we must sit down as a nation and discuss and decide.
I would like us to talk about national reconciliation in a moment. And but before that, I just wanted to clarify something. We've spoken about you being part of UPC Manidem, you being part of Stand Up for Cameroon, and you being part of this.
I'm not part of UPC Manidem.
Okay.
UPC Manidem, which is a political party, my party, Cameroon People's Party, we belong to, and we actually are the coordinators of the Stand Up for Cameroon movement.
Okay, I wanted this clarification because I was confused. I was wondering how you could belong to two political parties at the same time, which is against the law. But that's fine. Thank you for the clarification. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us now, you are watching the Beyond Africa podcast with me, your host, Ngalim Bernard, and my guest, Madame Kawala. We are discussing Cameroon elections. And for the first time on my podcast, you have someone who says the elections are going to be sham, and she is not encouraging people to get in there. She wants people to rather think about a peaceful transition where they bring themselves together, get invested in a peaceful transition through training, preparation, and mobilization to bring down the regime peacefully, because dictatorships are never brought down through elections. Is that a good summary of what you've told me already so far, Madam Wala?
A very good summary. The dictatorships are never brought down by elections which they control. And right now in Cameroon, it is the dictatorship that controls the election.
Thank you so much. So now, those politicians who are going in for the elections, let's focus on the 11 who have been retained. I don't talk about the 80 who were on the list, even though we know what happened. But let's focus on the 11 who have been retained, and they're starting campaigns, I think, on the 25th of this month. Are they involved? Are they interested in this strategies you're bringing out?
I think they are on an electoral strategy. You know, there is something that we have to educate citizens on. Political parties are made up of citizens, but they are not citizens. So political parties are part of the political landscape. So let me just say this to you. If you are a political party who has parliamentarians, who controls a certain number of municipal councils, you have stakes. This is a very difficult political environment. We have just described it. And if you are a political party who has succeeded over the years to grab a little bit of that space by having 3 or 4 parliamentarians, by having 5 or 6 municipalities that you are controlling, more than likely you are in the presidential election, not because you think you are going to win a presidential election. These parties have been going up against the CPDM for the past 30 years. They know the system very well. It's not that they think they're going to win, but it is that this is the most important platform for visibility for you for the municipal and legislative elections. The better you place on this presidential election, if you are number 2 or you're number 3 or you're number 4, likelihood is that it increases your chances at the level of the local election. So it is important for citizens to realize that their interests and the interests of political parties are not always the same at all times. Political parties have other interests, which if we were in a democracy, believe you, Mr. Ngalim, I would be right in there with the rest of them, fighting it out to position myself so that the municipal election, we grab as many municipalities and parliamentarians as we can. The difference that we of Stand Up for Cameroon have said is that we do not see the interest. Opposition in Cameroon has had parliamentarians for over 30 years today. We have held municipalities for over 30 years today. But there is not a single municipality or a legislative district where you can point to and say, oh, because they had an opposition elected official, life is better here for the citizens. This is not their fault. This is not the fault of the opposition leaders. It is because we are in a dictatorship. So they maintain the power and the resources at that central level. And even when you are elected, you cannot do much to impact the lives of citizens. So for us, we made a choice. We made that choice since 2014 that, of course, in my party, you have people who want to be parliamentarians. You have people who want to be mayor. But we said that desire to be a mayor or to be a parliamentarian is secondary to us fighting for a level playing field first, fighting for fundamental rights first, fighting so that we have a system where when you become a mayor or you become a parliamentarian, you can actually make a difference in the lives of Cameroonians. That is the difference in our position.
Thank you. That sounds really interesting. And I note that you took this strategic point since 2014 and it's 2025 today. That's 10 years, as we could say. Can you list out a few wins that you've had? I know you've mentioned the Garbu and the trainings recently. Can you just list out a few other we've had through this strategy?
Oh, there are multiple wins. In 2016, the CPDM was gearing up to have early elections. They anticipated, and today we know they were right, that 2018 would be difficult for them if they waited that long. So they wanted to secure their position in 2016. So they started with, as we know them, they started with the motion de soutien, this, that, and the other. They wanted to have early elections. That was actually when we launched Stand Up for Cameroon. And at that time, we had the CRM with us. We actually launched Stand Up for Cameroon at CRM headquarters. At that time, we had the Univers, the party Univers, which was the first party of Cabral Libii. They were with us at that time. And that was where we launched the Friday in Black. And speaking of arrest, Mr. Ngalim, we were arrested in Yaoundé over 7 times that year. But we kept coming back out in Black. We kept coming back. And at one point in time, we created enough tension that the CPDM simply had to back down from their project. They simply had to let go of the idea of having early elections. It is one of the biggest victories because to get the CPDM to back down, we can count on one hand how many times the Cameroonian opposition has been able to do that. We were able to do that. And unfortunately, the other parties left us because the momentum was quite good. But the other parties left us. Why? To go to election. So that is one of the victories. I think the entire advocacy on the Anglophone crisis, Stand Up for Cameroon has been one of the strongest movements advocating for the Anglophone crisis. Protests, we protested in Douala in 2017 on the street. We protested in Yaoundé in 2018, in 2019 again, and in 2020. And this was instrumental in demonstrating, because in many places in the world, when you went for international advocacy, people were saying, but Cameroonians, it looks like they are okay with what is going on. And we were able to do our demonstrations and advocate at national level, at international level, and we were the only group throughout this process that was a mixed group of Anglophones and Francophones fighting together for the end of the crisis. It is one of the most important things because you had the Ambazonians who were fighting as Anglophones. You had a Francophone-dominated government on the other side, and we came out as citizens to say, yes, there is an Anglophone problem, but no, we don't want to separate. We want to live together, but we want this problem to be addressed sustainably. We want the deep roots of the problem to be addressed. So one of our greatest successes was that demonstration that there is a group of Cameroonians, and we believe that we are the majority of Cameroonians who believe there is an Anglophone problem in Cameroon, who believe that we must go to the root cause of this problem and solve it, but that the solution, we must find it together, and it is not a question of separating from one another. So we have a good number of successes. And the other huge success, I would say, Mr. Ngalim, is that in a country where nobody protests, where everybody is afraid to protest. We started with protests in 2016. We are protesting till today. And we are very happy to see our Friday in Black, which we have maintained over these 11 years. Today, everybody who wants to protest in Cameroon uses black. You see somebody in a neighborhood, they're protesting for light, they put on their black. You see somebody, they are protesting for the road, which is bad in their village, they put on their black, and so on. So we have gained a lot of civic space for Cameroonians to express themselves by maintaining our position.
Thank you so much. And I doubt if there's anybody in Cameroon who doesn't know about Vendredi en Noir. I remember my wife, she worked in the north, and I don't know if it's 2017 or 2018, Le 8 Mai en Noir. She was...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, she was in Le 8 Mas en Noir. Yeah, she was in it. And when we look at that picture all the time now, we really laugh about it. But I think those are messages that you send across. I have a friend who believes in peaceful transition, peaceful demonstrations, and he makes it very clear in every forum we are that it takes a long time. But when you start measuring the milestones, you see that it is effective. But one question I wanted to come back to is the relationship with the political parties that are running in the current elections. As you said, all of them know none of them can be declared winner. I think that is a given. Shots can be taken at this, but that is a given. The Electoral Council of Elecam and the Constitutional Council are definitely going to declare Paul Biya the winner of the elections. So, are any of them thinking about using the Stand Up for Cameroon strategy to ensure that there is political consciousness and a strategy to pressurize these institutions to declare fair and credible results?
The only thing I can tell you is that we have made that offer. We've made that offer publicly. As you said, Stand Up for Cameroon has done in-depth work on the electoral register. We are not going for elections. So if we are doing in-depth work on the electoral register, we would imagine that it is the people going for elections who would be most interested by that work. We have done work that is demonstrating that there are minors on the electoral register. Not minors like, somebody is 16 and they got mistaken for 20, you are talking about children of 10, 11 years old, maybe less, who are there with their pictures. You can see that this is a child. We have done work to show that there are so many deceased people on the electoral register. Famously deceased people, people who we celebrated their lives as a Cameroonian nation. Mr. Joseph Ona is still on the electoral register. The father of Etophis is still on the electoral register. So many people who have passed away and are still on the electoral register. We have done further work now and shown that tens of thousands, and our colleague, our comrade, Remy Casting, who does this work, he does a fantastic job. He has been able to actually, he can tell you that we have tens of thousands in the southern regions. We have these cases in the Adamawa where we can actually locate them geographically of people who are registered without a photo, right? What does that mean? My little bit of intelligence is telling me that if somebody is registered without a photo, then when people come to vote, you may be having somebody vote who's not the proper person. And if if we have people registered without photos, how do we ensure whether these people have voted or they have not voted, and whether votes will be attributed to them that have not actually occurred? So all of this we have put into the public domain. We have made an open invitation that those who are going for election should please get in touch so that we are ready, willing, and able to carry out joint action. We don't believe in action by one group or the other. When we do action alone, we are weak in front of the system. No one political party, no one movement, no one. If you are alone, you are weak. You know, we carried out an action against the government in October last year, where after, I don't know, you remember when the Longue case came out? And,
yeah.
Yes. So Cameroon was going up against the Committee Against Torture at the international level in Geneva. We quickly brought, as Stand Up for Cameroon, we brought over 50 associations together. We carried out advocacy here in Cameroon, met with all the diplomatic community, gave them the report of how torture is systematic within the Cameroon judicial system. How, how the torture techniques are the same from the northwest to the southwest to the north to the center to the south, to show them how the torture techniques are the same, whether you are dealing with police, gendarme, beer, army, the same torture techniques, which tells you that somebody is teaching these techniques, because you cannot, by chance, have the same techniques being used across the country, across the different forces, and across time. So we carried out this collectively, and we were able, because we had 50 organizations, we were able to meet with most of the diplomatic community in Yaoundé, give them the report. They were able to transmit that report to Geneva. And when Cameroon came before the committee, they were not able to get away with what they usually get away with, because we had been able to act as a bloc. Organizations have been going to that committee for years. There are always civil society organizations there. But the fact that we acted together, the fact that we put pressure inside the country and outside the country, enabled us to achieve results. So we are at the level of standard for Cameroon, we've been at this for a little while, 11 years. We know what does not work. We know what does not work. We are able to also take by ourselves, go and take a lecam to court, by ourselves, go and do X or Y. But we know that this does not, it's not effective. So we try to spend the time to build the momentum. And we hope that those who are going in for elections, we are open. We are talking to some of them. We are in open communication with some of them. But the problem with elections is that it's distracting. They are busy. They're on the field. Yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned a few minutes ago that most of them are just going there in for the elections, for the visibility for future elections. And you've mentioned the torture techniques that you believe are being taught to Cameroonian forces of law and order and how to use them. Then the International Committee on Human Rights. Then you alluded to the diaspora a little bit. So I want us to talk a little bit still on the motivation. Why do you think that the distraction brought by the election is more important to the political parties than thinking about the post-election period? Because, for instance, in 2018, after the elections, the CRM party wanted to do some advocacy on the streets, and they met brutality on the side of the police, and they retreated. Now, it's 2025, and there could still be some movement towards that direction after the elections. Why do you think none of the leaders is actually paying so much attention to the strategies you are advocating and teaching?
I cannot answer you.
But you do talk to them, so you might have an idea.
You have just given this example of the CRM. We met with them before the elections in 2018 and told them that we needed a ground strategy. They were not interested. We met with them after the election. Immediately after the election, they told us no, they are going to court. They are going to the Supreme Court because we knew that the only way for them to get through would be to have a ground strategy. They waited, I would say, until it was almost too late. They waited. They went in a manner that was not structured, that was not organized, and they had the result, which is not their fault. We live in a violent regime. They came up with against violence. But I would say the same party decided to go, because we have to keep in mind that the only reason they are not in this election is because they were kicked out, not because they realized that elections were not good. And in the interim, never once did they feel that we should sit down and reflect on a ground strategy. They would have been in exact same position as all the others today. It is CPDM who kicked them out. So we see that somehow parties in Cameroon are more interested by the positioning than the actual building of what is required to change fundamentally this system. I hope that we will be able to make progress on that we'll be able to work more on that. But for right now, what I know is that Cameroonians, the grassroots, are ready. And every time we have gone through the grassroots, we have been able to build momentum. So us as a movement, we feel that the others will join us when they are ready. We cannot reflect in their place. We cannot. We spend a lot of time, because we don't go to elections. We spend a lot of time over the last 2 years reaching out to them to try to build this up. They were not interested. So we believe that our focus should be on the grassroots, should be on getting out there, educating people, mobilizing people, and so on, because we have seen that whenever we do that, we are able to build momentum and we are able to bring people out. And our challenge now is the resources to do this en masse. Because the one thing about mass action is that it is a very expensive venture.
Let us talk about this in a moment. Let us talk about this in a moment. About the torture techniques that you mentioned. I remember the United States under President Trump suspended Cameroon's military aid because they believed that some of the aid was being directed to commit human rights violations in the Northwest and the Southwest. Did your advocacy move towards that direction of letting the United States know that the torture continues, or something towards that direction?
Of course, we advocated. In fact, the U.S. Embassy is the embassy that hosted the meeting with the diplomatic community when we presented the report, demonstrating these torture techniques. So we were advocating to all of the countries that are members of the Committee Against Torture, and who were going to be sitting in that meeting.
All right, thank you. Then I want to touch a little bit on the diaspora. We can link this with the other elements we're talking about, the funding and all the rest. The diaspora, most Cameroonians in the diaspora, I wish I could have data that would say I'm wrong. Most of them left Cameroon because of bad governance, human rights violations, and poor living conditions, meaning they have a natural instinct to make things better at home, if at all they do have it. But what is the connection between Stand Up for Cameroon and the diaspora to advance these goals of mobilization?
I think that the diaspora has been very attracted by the shining lights of elections. You know, I think I should meet your friend that you're referring to, because I think he has a very good understanding of nonviolent direct action. It is it's boring work. It's boring work. You have to go to the field. You have to educate the people. You have to mobilize them. It's boring work that takes a lot of time and energy. And perhaps I would say that on our part as Stand Up for Cameroon, we are also not by nature. We are not the flashy, make a lot of noise type. We could do better at communicating. We should do better at communicating what it is that we are doing and what some of these successes are that we have been able to get along the way. I think it is important for the diaspora to know a couple of things. Number one is that diaspora cannot lead. You simply cannot lead. Leadership must come from the ground. And I know that can be very frustrating when you are not living in the dictatorship. So you want to go fast, you want to go quickly, you want to, all people to get on the streets tomorrow. But don't forget that we have to lead because we are living in the lion's den. We know when the lion is asleep. We know when the lion is awake. We know when we can move without getting exterminated, because we need to stay alive for the fight. So it is important that diaspora does not lead. For me, if there is one thing we should learn from the Anglophone crisis, we had that diaspora in the driver's seat, and it has been a catastrophe for us, because you simply cannot, from 6,000 miles away, take into account all of the factors on ground which are necessary for success. So that is number one. And I understand how difficult it is to not, get ahead and go, so diaspora cannot lead, which also means that diaspora has to respect us. I think one of the things that I see happening, which is very unfortunate, is that our diaspora takes on the attitude of the imperialistic countries they live in towards us. So they sound just like the white people in those countries when they talk about us. Oh, you people are slow. Oh, you people, you don't have courage. Oh, you Cameroonians. Um, Give us a little bit of respect, right? Uh, you left because you chose not to live in this mess. We are choosing to live here and we are surviving. It deserves at least minimal respect. And that means find the actors. There are a lot of, unfortunately, that is what dictatorship produces. There are a lot of unreliable, unserious, people who are not worth investing time and energy with. But those of us who are serious, who have been consistent over time, who have obtained victories, maybe slowly but surely, you also know who we are. You also know who we are. So get in touch with a credible organization, build the relationship, demand from us. Yes, you should demand from us. Where are you going next? What is the plan? What do you need resources for? How are you using these resources? These are all very good things that diaspora should be demanding from us. This is part of a good partnership when we are exchanging. And of course, we need your perspective, we need your intelligence, we need your resources, we need, we are head down. We are in the fight. We are fighting like this, head down, and you people have a broader view. You are a step away. You can see things more broadly, and when we put our heads together, we can define ways forward, which are interesting and effective. So diaspora should work in partnership. Diaspora should work in partnership and not in partnership. Uh, 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 what are you people doing? You should have done this. Not this kind of shouting, but a real constructive partnership that can enable us. I'm sorry to say, there are no easy solutions. If there were easy solutions, we would not be here. We would simply not be here. So all of us have the humility to know that there are no easy solutions. We are going to figure it out, and we figure it out as we go along. Nobody has a magic bullet. This has also gotten us in trouble. Cameroonians have felt, oh, there's a Messiah. If we just get behind this one Messiah, this is the person who is going to solve all of the problems. It doesn't work. We have to invest the time, the energy, the work to figure it out. These are people around whom you have to finagle because they are blocking here. You have to say, oh, they blocked there. Let me go around. The next time they block you around, you say, no, I will go under. This is how we fight. And I think that diaspora can play a key role, but that we need to readjust the nature of our partnership. There is sometimes in diaspora a little bit of a frenzy. There's a little bit of a frenzy, which you are creating frenzy online, which does not exist on the ground. And then you are disappointed. I have seen the diaspora get quite disappointed because they by themselves created so much energy on the internet, and they deluded themselves into thinking that that energy was here on the ground in Cameroon. And then push comes to shove, and they realize that, oh, there's nobody on the street. There's nobody willing to fight for that. There's nobody willing to, you know. So it is, we must adjust, and we must have a much more reflective, constructive partnership that is working to get to the final solution, not to have a magic wand. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And for those who are wondering why you are so systemic in your thinking, it's because you are a strategist, a corporate strategist, and you help corporations figure out how to operate in difficult circumstances. So they shouldn't be that surprised.
And countries, I would, when I'm working all across Africa, when I'm working in Europe, I advise the German government, I advise the African Union, and sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, but how am I doing this everywhere except in my own country? Yeah.
Let's be thinking about rounding up. But one question I would like to ask is really this question you ask yourself when you're working with other people. Why do you think Cameroon appears to be different?
You know, I've been, like I say, I work all over Africa. I've visited over 30 African countries. And I simply believe each country has its path. Sometimes what looks like, I used to think, I would say 10, 15 years back, I thought, oh my God, these other countries are so far ahead of us. They are so, we are so far behind. We have not been able to even make the first step. And while it is true that 43 years is, I mean, it's mind blowing. The other, I turned 60 this year, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And I said, the last thing I thought I would be doing at 60 is still fighting Biya. But I think that when you look closely, you have countries which look like they are having elections, changing presidents, and so on. When you get inside their system, you realize their state capture is just as bad as ours. The only difference with them is that the group who is in power has been smart enough to realize that don't keep one person there, rotate it around. But it's still the same group that's in power. And you go into those countries and you see people suffering from the same problems of lack of infrastructure, lack of access to basic services, and so on and so forth. So all I can say is that I firmly believe that as Cameroonians, we are an extremely talented and extremely intelligent set of people. Our individual success is outstanding. We have not yet figured out collective success. We have not yet figured out how to make that individual ambition wait for a minute while we build the collective system where everybody can succeed. This is our challenge. But believe you me, we will figure it out. And when we do, we are going to take the world by storm. Because Cameroon is one of those countries that can turn it around in a very short space of time because of the extraordinary talent that we have. So our challenge now, and where I invite everybody as we round up, where I invite all Cameroonians is to go to that collective. We cannot think in silos. Anglophones cannot think we will solve our problem before the national problem. A Northeast cannot think that, the North has been so left behind that we must have our own share before we think about the national share. We cannot start thinking that, oh, we are going to do this by the Bakas, the Bamilekes, the Betis, or whatever. As long as we remain in that mode, we're not getting out of here. We are not getting out of here.
Yeah, I said a moment ago that we were going to talk about national reconciliation, and you're actually touching on the right buttons here, because the country seems to be divided, tribes against tribes, geographical entities against geographical entities. What is that strategy to bring people together to consider themselves as individuals, but who live in a collective that has the same source of problems?
So, one, I say, first of all, be careful with that analysis. People are divided on Facebook. They are divided on Twitter, whatever other platforms they are on. When I come to the diaspora, I find that the diaspora is really divided. On the ground here in Cameroon, not so much. I've just talked about a meeting we had with 600 women in Yaoundé, coming from 7 different regions. The first thing that struck me in that meeting, the delegations were coming up and introducing one another. The first thing that struck me was the delegation from Ebolova. They came, and the lady opened her mouth and said, "Good morning," in a perfect English-speaking accent, and spoke to us for 10 minutes in English before she switched to French. She happens to be of Anglophone origin, but she lives in Ebolova. She considers Ebolova her town. That's where she grew up, and that's what she was defending there. And this is the reality of Cameroon. Is that we are much more intermingled. Like I tell people, where do the Anglophones run to in the crisis? We have over 1 million displaced people from the Anglophone crisis. Or less than 100,000 of them ran to Nigeria. Maybe you have another 100,000 to 200,000 who have run to the other Anglophone regions. Where are the rest of them? They are in the French-speaking part of Cameroon. Of course, there are tensions. Of course, that is human. Of course, we have tensions. Of course, we have really idiotic politicians who are playing on the ethnic division. The party in power, the CPDM, has always been good at that. They inherited it from the UNC, and they have continued using ethnic tensions as a political tool. But unfortunately, we see today what we had never seen before 2018, opposition parties who are also using the ethnic, these are the people who are a problem to us. But you get down to the ground in Cameroon, you talk to the people at grassroots level. They want to live together. They want us to put the problems out on the table and discuss them, and they want to find solutions. So again, my faith is in those people. That's where we are going to build a new Cameroon from. That is where we're going to get the political transition.
Thank you so much. I have always been of the opinion that tribalism is an instrument that politicians use to either stay in power or to separate people, because when I walk along the streets of any village or city or region I am in, I talk with people who feel very free. We speak different languages, but we understand ourselves. So I really believe that tribalism is, and most of these isms that separate people are mostly political talking points that people tend to believe in. So do you have any last words for our political folk, especially those who are running at these elections?
again, my last words are going to be for Cameroonians as a whole, for those of you in the diaspora in particular. Times are tough. There's no question about it. Even for those of us who have been in the trenches for a long time, times are really tough. And it's easy. I think a lot of people had hopes in these elections. A lot of people are sort of coming to the realization like this looks like it's not going to produce any kind of significant result. So it's easy in such a moment to give up hope. It's easy in such a moment to say, oh, this thing, it's never going to work, and so on and so forth. This is the opposite of what we should do. My message to Cameroonians, this is a time to reach deep within you. The country is falling apart in front of us. We know this, we see it. It is visibly falling apart. What we need to do is to come together around the common values which we have. Cameroonians want justice. Cameroonians want peace. Cameroonians want every Cameroonian to have the opportunity for basic services and to have access to the resources of the country. This is what we must keep in mind, and we must build it. We build it through movement. You have to join a movement. At this stage in the game, I tell Cameroonians, you have to join. You can no longer sit in your corner by yourself with your friends, drinking your beer and complaining and hoping that things are going to change. No, it's all hands on deck. It's all hands on deck. So we invite you to stand up for Cameroon. We think Cameroon, Stand Up for Cameroon is definitely a platform that can welcome you and enable you to get active and to become a part of things. But whatever you are doing, move. Take your courage into your two hands, protest. Our message is also Black on Friday. Imagine, just imagine, we are 1 month to the election. Imagine that every Friday, 3 out of every 10 Cameroonians, 5 out of every 10 Cameroonians are in black to say, this is not okay. We will immediately have the attention of this government that does not believe, that does not listen to us. We will immediately have the attention of the international community. Cameras will be flying from all over the world to say what's going on here. So we must use the simple, easy ways to protest that keep us safe and that enable us to continue engaging. But now is not the time to give up. Now is the time. The system is shaking. We can see that it's on its last leg. But we must do what is necessary so that that change happens in the right direction. It can also go in the wrong direction. If we sit and we don't do anything, if we don't get involved, it can go in the wrong direction. Let's believe in ourselves. Let's believe in the Cameroon that we want, and let's build it.
Thank you so much, Makawala. On the Beyond Africa podcast, we believe that the diaspora and the home front can unite and work effectively. So this platform serves at advancing the African cause. It also serves at advancing good governance. So anything good governance is championed on this platform. Come here, talk about what you want. I'll get your contacts for Stand Up for Cameroon and put throughout this video. Anybody who wants to join the movement should follow you. But one thing I would like us to close on is your request to the diaspora. Request number 1, diaspora, you cannot lead. Leadership must be on the ground. Give it to those on the ground. Number 2, respect the actors at home. Don't be flippant. Don't talk about realities that you don't know. Number 3, identify reliable actors at home, people who have been consistent and active and have been leading the charge, leading the movements for change. Number 4, demand accountability from those with whom you are collaborating, but be polite and do it reasonably. Number 5, share your perspectives, your intelligence, your resources, your logistics. Number 6, work together with the base for this to happen, because movement building needs training, preparation, and mobilization for things to change. You cannot do this without working together, and you need all this together for change to happen. Is there anything you want to correct on that?
Absolutely not. That this your this.
Merci. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Beyond Africa podcast with me, Ngalim Bernard, your host, and my guest, Madame Kawala, who has been spot on as usual, very detailed on her points, and she's focused on the need for movement building, because movement building is the main ingredient that can advance political change and can bring good governance in any system. With movement building, strong movements that advance good governance can even cause change without necessarily causing the leadership to, or without necessarily causing a change in the leadership. They can force the actual leadership to take the right decisions. As she has mentioned, South for Cameroon has had some positive milestones, but the challenge is still there and the journey continues. So, like her, stay tuned, remain in the struggle until we see the positive light at the end of the tunnel. She alluded to the civil rights movements in the United States. We are enjoying those rights today, so our children and our children's children should also enjoy civil rights and benefits in Africa. That is our call. That is our responsibility. Let's get involved. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you.